I want to talk about this concept of getting shifted. I spell it SHYFTiD. The Y in the middle stands for your personal area of change, right? And the ID is identifying it. It's so easy to get caught up in the momentum of this world and the external expectations and the norms that we don't often identify our own personal spaces to be in. There's a lot of talk about manifestation. It's all over TikTok, it's all over IG. Manifest, manifest, burn some sage, think good thoughts, call it to you. But the reality is that we have to figure out when we're in that space and that I'm just going to wait for it to be revealed to me, is that really an excuse not to move? I've talked to people who use manifestation as a way to not take risks, to not jump out there and try something, to say that if it doesn't come to me, then it's not for me, right? We have all these quips there. Everything happens for a reason. And if it's for me, it's for me. It prevents us from doing the work. What if there is something for you, but you have to take the first step to get it? What if it's not going to arrive on your doorstep? What if it is going to be difficult to get to it? It doesn't mean that it isn't for you. I just want to be careful when we talk about manifestation that we don't use that as a way not to take action. In this mindset situation, whether you're talking about leadership or personal brand or manifestation, there are three key things that I think you have to think about before you even begin. And the first one is addressing your mental chatter. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Identifying your core values and then liberating your life from labels. So let's talk about what manifestation is. It is turning thoughts, desires, and beliefs into reality with focused intention and aligned action. Focused intention, people stop there. If I meditate, if I pray, then it'll be revealed. Well, I think the universe says you move and I move just like that. It's not you, I move, and then you sit there and wait to see how much more I'm gonna move, right? That's free advertising. And sometimes we get those and we take it for granted. We go, oh, everything just worked out. And we say, I manifested that because I thought of it, right? But that prevents us from having more opportunities. How many people know what's gonna happen in the next 20 seconds? The next 10, the next 5. Okay. So everybody in this room just admitted that every moment forward from right now is a figment of our imagination, yes? Anything we perceive happening after right now, we just made it up. And the question becomes, why do we make up the negative story? Studies continue to show that 85% of our mental chatter is negative, which then causes us to think about where are we getting the beliefs of the foundation of the things that tell us that it's negative in the first place? What makes us even label it as such? And the reason why mindset work is so important is because you have to figure out what are the conversations I'm having with myself in my head and why am I having them? Where did they come from? Our belief systems are built from the time we're born. It's why when somebody says their 3-year-old can read, we go crazy. It doesn't indicate their success in life. What are we impressed about? Which then makes other parents say, well, then my child can, right? So we take this data and we assign meaning to it. And then we start this tape in our head that says what's better, what's worse, what's good, what's bad. When we're about to step out on something, we take all those calculations that we've used before to say whether or not we can, or maybe I shouldn't, or I'm too embarrassed to ask. One of the things that we have to figure out is how to tame our mental chatter. And at the end of the day, what I offer is to balance whatever rabbit hole you've gone down, balance it with the other side of the equation. So, oh my goodness, I'm never going to get all of this done. I have too much to do. There's too much on my plate. And then I won't get the promotion, whatever. There's so many other options to that story. I'm not asking you to negate the fact that this could be the journey, but I would like you to offer your mindset, your spirit, the balance that it all might work out. And in that, usually your body relaxes, you come out of fight or flight mode, you're able to think differently. When we're in crisis, it's hard to manifest. It is hard to take intentional action when your hair is on fire. So put it out because you're making up a story. None of it's happened. What if it all works out? Much easier to manifest from a clear mindset. Going back to SHYFTiD, I talked about that, and it's, that concept shift. You can get shifted by accident or you can get shifted intentionally. If you lose your job, your best friend stops speaking to you, there's a shift, yes? Right, you get shifted in some way. It isn't always into a positive space. The reason why I want to remind people of the why and the ID is if you get shifted into a negative space, you can SHYFTiD. You can identify where you would like to get shifted back or shifted differently. Two things that I believe are required in a pivot, because in the pivot is when we start that, we want to manifest something differently. We want to make a change, and we want to make a change that is authentic to who we are. One is to be really aware of your circumstances. Do not lie to yourself. I don't care what you tell this world. Tell yourself the truth. It is okay. It is not an indictment of your ability to succeed. It doesn't mean that you will continue along that vein. Sometimes we have too much of the, if I name it, I've claimed it. No, let's talk about what the truth is so we can examine it. When we don't examine the truth, we're constantly running from what I call the ghost. We're always worried about getting found out because we haven't yet acknowledged the truth to ourselves. In that awareness and in that reality, I can move from a truthful space. So if I said, for instance, the reason why I never made it on the Oprah show was because she was using the same cast of characters. Like I could make up all these excuses. Or I could look inward and say, what else might I have done? How could I have done this differently? And from that space, I can create real actionable steps that will show me progress. Maybe not to Oprah, but to some other place. But if I'm always constantly trying to fight for where I shoulda, woulda, coulda been and all the reasons why, I'm staying stuck, yes? The acceptance of the reality of our reality is critical. It has nothing to do with your truth. It's just data so that you can plan on how to move forward. One of the things that I can't ever not talk about in anything is, well, let me not steal my own thunder. Here's what I'd like you to do. I would like you to think of one pet peeve that you have. Just one pet peeve. I don't want it to be something that's a minor irritation. I want it to be something that when it happens, your best friend's like, oh, for God's sake, because they know that you're about to be different. You got it in mind? Okay. Now I want you to think of your reaction to the pet peeve. Lastly, I want you to think about what are some of the consequences of your reaction to the pet peeve. If we had time, I would get everybody's pet peeves. And one of the questions I would ask is, why don't we all start seething over the same behavior, right? Have you ever had a friend come tell you something and you can almost see steam coming out of her head? And she gets to the end of the story and you're like, dude, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know why you're so upset. And then what do we normally say? Calm down. It's not that big a deal. So we invalidate it. Why do you think we don't all have the same responses to the same scenarios? We all don't share the same value system, right? It is why someone not holding the door for me or not saying thank you if I hold the door does something to my insides, but may not do something to my friends. They may not have even noticed that the person didn't hold the door. And when people do things that confront our values, I call pet peeves value confrontations. What happens when we have value confrontations is that we have emotional reactions. These emotional reactions bring us outside of who we say we are. For instance, consideration is a value of mine. It's in my top 5. Before I started doing this work, I might hold the door for someone and they don't say thank you, and I would turn around and say, "Oh, you're welcome." Because in my mind, I'm thinking, who doesn't mean to say thank you? Well, let's say they didn't even acknowledge me after I did that. They were kind of like, whatever. Or maybe they didn't even pay attention. And maybe I don't hold the second door. You know how usually there's 2 doors when you come out the door. So I drop the door, I scoot through it, and I say, well, if it doesn't matter, I'm not going to do it. And let's say the person that I dropped the door on was my namesake that I met today, Monica. And now I get up here on this stage and I say, one of my values is consideration. Is that what she believes? What does she think I might value? Who does she think I am? What might she call me? Rude, inconsiderate. What happens is when we have these value confrontations, and I'm going to tie this right back to manifestation because it's critical, it will block you. When we don't have understanding of our value confrontations, we have emotional reactions that cause us to behave in ways we don't mean, which then starts a series of events we don't mean. When we understand, when I hold the door and no one says thank you, I don't have an emotional reaction. I can now have a strategic response because I'm clear about why I feel the way I feel. Our values make so much sense to us that we think everyone should have them. Of course, someone should say thank you. Did they ask me to hold the door? Then the question becomes, why did I hold it in the first place? Because I value consideration. I value consideration. So the way I operate is I'm the one that wipes off the basin in public restrooms, because if you come to the sink, I don't want you to wet your pants. It's how I consider other people. Now, before I understood that just like a fingerprint, we all have different value systems, I might have been irritated at the person before me who didn't wipe the sink. We want to release our emotional reactions and turn them into strategic responses. Because in this space, we have less regret, more confidence, and we can move forward. There's a story that this woman, Alicia Gatton, tells during her workshops that I adore, and I use it all the time. So her grandparents back in the 1930s and 40s used to go for after supper walks. And this one particular day, her grandparents are out for a walk and they come across the neighborhood floozy. Okay, everybody knows who she is. All right, good. So the grandfather tips his hat to her. So when they get further down the street, the grandmother, I can't believe you tipped your hat to that woman. Do you know the havoc she wreaks in the neighborhood? And how dare you? And he says to her, I tip my hat not because of who she is, but because of who I am. We cannot adjust our values to fit the circumstances because we believe other people should share them. It is the quickest way to shut down relationships, opportunities, and to behave in ways that are outside of ourselves. So identify your core values. I have one more question, maybe 2. What do you call the person that caused the value confrontation? Now we take these experiences and we label the entire person. How many lies does it take to become a liar? Depends on the lie. Who determines if the lie is worthy or not? And see how it gets tricky? Yeah. How many people in here have told more than one lie? How many people in here describe themselves as a liar? Okay, I'm going to lie is not the same as I am a liar. How might you treat her if she just came out and told you, I'm a liar? We don't have to label people to talk about the experience that we had with them. When we label people, we dismiss the entirety of the person. You could have lied 8 times straight to someone's face. It does not make you a liar. It means you lied 8 times to someone's face. What if you've never lied to your grandma? you can't be a liar if you don't lie all the time. It's created this space where we've become a society of label chasers. And in those labels, sometimes we are afraid to show who we are. It's hard to manifest when you're hiding. Manifestation requires a truth, an honesty, a transparency, at a minimum with yourself. When we label people, when we label ourselves, when we label circumstances, we prevent ourselves from seeing the entirety of the person or situation. If I miss my flight, I'm going on vacation and I miss my flight and I go, oh my God, this is terrible. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. I planned on being by the pool by 3, having a drink by 6. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Now I go to the bar and I'm in terrible mode because I know how I treat situations that are terrible. I'm not laughing. I'm not giddy. It's terrible. And now I sit next to Nicole Venable at the bar and she's hiring a speaker. But I'm terrible, 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 terrible. And then some kind of way in the last 5 minutes, I pass her my card. Is she invited me to speak? No. So instead of labeling the entire situation as terrible, I just use what happened as data. Remember, mental chatter is what took me to terrible. It could have rained the entire time when I arrived and I never could have made it to the pool. I could have eaten something bad on the plane. My stomach was hurting. I didn't want to drink at 6. And I missed the opportunity to show up. Instead of labeling your circumstances or labeling people in its entirety, just use the data to decide what you will do next. If somebody lies to you constantly, you don't have to label them a liar. You just have to decide what you will do with that data. The same way we're labeling other people are labeling us. And we cannot feed back into the very system that we're trying to dismantle. You cannot want not to be labeled and also label. So we have to use the data, and the data will help us take action, and the action is how we manifest. There's so many things that can get in the way of creating this magic of manifestation, like mental chatter, like not knowing what our core values are, and like labeling. When we address those 3 things, it's like we clear out the atmosphere and allow manifestation to actually happen so that our steps and our activities are honest and are true. We're not worried about what people will call it. I know that I can't be all things to all people. I can live from my core and let the labels fall where they may. When I leave this workshop and Nicole does a survey or something, half the room, how'd you find Monica Koss? Some people could say I found her arrogant and off-putting. Some people could say I thought she was knowledgeable and confident. Can I control that? No. The only thing I can do is operate from my core and let the labels fall where they may. I don't know what you call the way I behave. And if the way I behave and my core values don't align with who you are, that's okay. There's no love lost. It's okay for values to not align. One of the things that people say is, I don't know what I'm called to do. I've been doing this job for so long, but I don't know if it's my calling. There was an activity that a dear friend of mine gave me where she had me put a paper in 3 columns. And the first column was, what do you like to do? And she said, don't leave anything out. I don't care if it's, clipping your fingernails or smelling flowers or organizing your pantry or helping people get through a problem or solving problems. What is it that you like to do? The second one was, what are you good at? I love to sing so much. It is not in column 2. And the third column is, what do people come to you for? It is most certainly not in column 3. You may need people's input for column 3 because sometimes we downplay the things that come easy to us. We said, oh, you give the best advice. You ask the best questions. You would ask people, what is it that you would come to me for? If you were hiring, what would you hire me to do? And then you want to find the common thread in all 3 of those. And then you look at industries where those apply. Don't limit yourself to industry when your skill set crosses many. That's when you can actually start to look at your interests. And you're going to say, well, I've been a lawyer for so long. Well, if that common thread says you can be in retail and you like retail, let's go to retail. Let's reframe those skills and go to retail. As far as manifestation, I do believe in calling it in. I am calling in a life where I have flexibility, financial stability, where my friendship circles are rich, where there's not a lot of idle chatter about talking about what are you calling in? Write that down on paper. That 80% of people who write it down, all of that still holds true. What kind of life are you calling in? Spiritually, relationally, professionally, parentally, if that applies. And then the fourth is to get shifted, to really figure out for yourself. Forget the voices, your mother's voice, your sister's voice, the person that seems to have it all right and has somewhere controlled the narrative in your head. Release it. You can pick it back up later if you like, but release it for this exercise and identify the areas where you need to get shifted.